Thank you. Thank you. Hey, Mom, come here. Come here. Come here. What? Yeah. This is my mom, y'all. This is my mom. I get everything from my mom. Here, you can come up here. You can come up here. I get my height from my mom. I get I got it from my mama. Anyway, no, you're right here. You're right here, right here. So anyway, when I was a freshman in high school, my mom would drop me off. The parent drop off, right? And one of the demands, one of the important demands was, all right, kiss your mother goodbye. Kiss your mom. And here's the deal. At the very beginning, you're like, oh, yeah, sure. But then, like day 2, you're like, Mom, no. Mom, no, I'm not kissing you. She's like, give me a kiss goodbye. Right here. You're like, no, I'm not, Mom, I'm not giving you a kiss. Nobody's doing that. Mom, it's not normal. It's weird. Anybody in the situation? All right. No, y'all are liars. They're all kissing your mom goodbye. So proud of all of you. But here's the deal. Mom, I love you. Mwah. Thank you. Go sit. Okay. But that took like 17 years, okay? That took a long time because as a freshman in high school, I was like, Mom, that's not normal. I'm not doing that. I'm not kissing you. Nobody's kissing their mom going to school. I can't be a man and kiss my mom goodbye. And it's interesting what we define as normal. What is it that we define as normal? I shared with you last week. I got to travel to Iceland last year, and there's some really wild things there. Like it's normal in Iceland to eat horses. Like that's a normal deal. And I won't say that you know somebody who did, but maybe you do. And so over in Iceland, they do stuff that's a little different. I've been in a handful of countries. I was in Colombia with our missions team just about a month ago. Yeah, woo. And one of the things is the greeting there, right? Like if a girl greets a guy, it's the kiss thing on the cheek. If a girl greets a girl, it's the kiss thing on the cheek. Guy greet guy, it's what's up, right? So there's no, but like you don't do that. You don't do that with everybody everywhere because that's not normal. I want to tell you what defines normal. Culture defines normal. The very definition of normal is, what does culture define? What does culture say is acceptable? What does culture say is agreeable? What does culture say is fine? That's normal. Now, one of the major problems is over the last 100 years plus, there's been an idea that is crept into our minds. You don't even know where this idea came from, but there was a very important, probably one of the most important atheist philosophers to ever live, named Friedrich Nietzsche. And I can't spell his last name for the life of me. I butcher it every time I put that in Google. But Friedrich Nietzsche, and one of the things that he taught was that whatever a society decides is good for them is morally good for everybody. And so morals can change based on, hey, what does our group think should be normal? And this is why you see people on social media go, hey, we need to normalize this, right? What is it? It's an invitation to, hey, can we make this okay in our culture? Hey, can we normalize this? But this concept comes from Friedrich Nietzsche, who taught basically that we get to make up our own morality and culture is always right. Friedrich Nietzsche grew up in Germany, which 50 years later would commit some of the greatest atrocities that the world has ever seen in World War II because This idea that whatever we as a society decide is best, is good, allowed them to do it. So here's the deal. Culture defines normal, but culture doesn't always define good. Do you see the difference? Culture can say, hey, this is normal, but normal doesn't necessarily mean, yeah, this is good, or this is acceptable, or this is okay, or this is right. Culture is just saying, hey, this is what we do. This is just what people do, whether it's right or wrong. It's just culture. And tonight, I want to talk about one of the weirdest stories in the Bible. I'm convinced it is one of the most strange. I mean, there's stranger stories. Don't get me wrong. There's wild stuff in the Bible. The Bible's whack, y'all. So, but this is a story that for the longest time, I did not understand it. But it looks at one of the greatest normalizing forces in the world, which is your family. Your family makes things normal for you. When they do surveys and they ask people, hey, who has the greatest influence in your life? Who has the greatest influence? What they ultimately find out is, regardless of what you say, the people who actually had the greatest influence in your life was your home. And believe it or not, most of the time people still say, oh, my family is the biggest influence on me. So your home environment is one of the greatest normalizing things in your world. And how many of you have ever heard the phrase before, don't ask a fish about water? Right? And the idea is, yeah, none of you? All right. That's just, all right. We're seeing different social media feeds, I guess. So, but here's the idea, here's the concept. Or can't see the forest for the trees. Here's the idea, is that if you are in the middle of something, you can no longer see what it is. Here's the deal. There can be things that happen in your family that your family calls normal that are not okay. There can be things that you grew up with that are around you that you said, hey, this is normal, but they are not right before God. And tonight I want to help because I think some of us come in here prone to repeating some of the things that our parents have done. Knowing full well that the things that my parents are done, I don't want to do. I had a friend years ago. He was in my year, and he grew up in an absolutely terrible home life. He'd tell me stories of the things that he saw his parents do, no child should ever have to see. The things that were normal in his day-to-day life are things that I have still never seen. And that was normal for him. And I remember being in high school having conversations where he would say, man, I don't want to be like my parents. And I'm a couple minutes past high school if you don't know this. Just a couple minutes. And or something. And I'll tell you this. I say this soberly and somberly, that his life has turned out much like his parents did. And everything that he said, oh, I will never, I watched him do. And so we're in a series right now called Founding Fathers. We're looking at 3 guys that the Bible talks about over and over and over, named Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And they are a big deal to the Bible. And we're going, why are you such a big deal to the Bible? That's the whole series. Why are you a big deal to the Bible? What can we get from your lives? So, in Genesis 26, first book of the Bible, 26th chapter, we read about a guy named Isaac. Now, I introduced Isaac last week. He's Abraham's son. And Isaac, as he grows up, um, Genesis 26 has one of the only stories about Isaac, which is crazy. It's absolutely crazy because it's a weird story. But what's even weirder about this is when you read Genesis 26, if you're reading the book of Genesis, this is not the first time that you have read a very similar story. In fact, you've read the story twice before because his dad did it. You're going to read a story in Genesis 26 where Isaac tries to convince someone that his wife is actually his sister so that they do not kill him. You're like, what the crap just did you say? But here's the deal. In Genesis 12, in Genesis 26, here's what you need to see. When you read the Bible, especially if you read it in Hebrew, which none of us are doing, but if you did, you would see that like on purpose, they're trying to use the same words and trying to use the same lyrics basically. Have you ever seen like a really intelligent, thoughtful rapper who will use lines that tie back to other songs and you go, "Oh, I know what he's talking about because he referenced this before." Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Like he uses a line that like goes back to and you're like, "Oh, it's this." And then you get stuck on genius.com going, "Okay, and this means this and this means." All right? But this is what the Bible is doing thousands of years before genius.com ever showed up. It's tracing this story. And here's what happens. There was a famine in the land. And the Bible says there's a famine in the land. And this is what starts the whole thing. They've got to move. And so Isaac and Abraham, his dad is the one in Genesis 12. Isaac's in Genesis 26. They move in both stories. It says, now Abraham journeyed from there. He went to live for a time in, can we go to that next part? It says he goes to live in Gerar. Guess where Isaac, his son, goes when there's a famine in the land? He goes to Gerar. Okay, this is cutting back. And then, go to that next slide for me. It says, please say that you are my sister. That's what his dad said to his wife, Sarah. He said, hey, please tell everybody you're my sister. And this is going to be really confusing. But Abraham in Genesis 20 did the same thing again, but in Egypt. And Isaac does the same thing again. Now, here's the deal. You're going, what on earth is happening? But here's the deal. When Abraham shows up in Gerar in Genesis 12, when he shows up in Egypt in Genesis 20, he's worried that people will look at his wife and be like, hey, I want her. I don't care about the husband. Let's just kill the husband. But Abraham knows, hey, if you are my sister, then marriages worked a little different back then. If you wanted to get married, you had to pay the family. And so Abraham's going like, hey, listen, if you say you're my sister and anybody tries anything, we make some money. Now, I know you're going, what on earth is happening right now? Now, here's where this does not work. Because in Genesis 12, a guy looks out the window and he goes, Sarah is beautiful, take her. And without giving Abraham anything, he takes her. So Abraham is wifeless and penniless. And this is a dark moment. And here's why. Abraham is a man who God is saying, I'm going to bless you. I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to cover you. I'm going to cover you. But Abraham gets scared and he says, no, don't worry. I'm going to sin. I'm going to lie. I'm going to make something up. I'm going to sell you and I'm going to do. And so he does what is wrong to try to protect himself, and it backfires. In Genesis 20, he literally doesn't learn from that mistake. He goes into Egypt and he's afraid. And he lies again, does the same thing again. And it backfires. They take Sarah away from him. When they finally find out that she's married, they're furious. They kick Abraham out. They send him away. But what's wild to me is that decades later, Isaac does the same exact thing. He repeats his dad's mistake. And I need to make a quick note here. Because sometimes we read the Bible and we go, the Bible, anything that the Bible says is normal. And I need you to understand, the Bible teaches us what's good. The Bible teaches us what's normal, but it tells us stories about people who are outside of that. Okay, so if you read that story, you don't go, oh, I guess that's cool. It's not cool, right? If you read that story we talked about last week, where Abraham's wife is like, hey, do you want to sleep with this other girl? And he's like, yeah, that's fine. Okay, that's not right. We don't moralize the sins of people in the Bible. I need you to hear this. The Bible is going to teach us what's good, but it's using people that are broken to teach us. And here's what the Bible is showing us here, that Isaac is prone to make the same mistakes that his dad did. You know what's interesting is that there's a tendency when you grow up around something to fall right back into it. Because it's normal. It's what you're surrounded by. It's what you see every day. But God has a different way. So tonight I want to share with you a couple things. This is going to be some of my recommendations for us, something to learn from the life of Isaac. Number one, just because your parents did it doesn't mean you should do it too. Or in other words, get off the family plan. Listen, there's going to be things in your life that you're going to see that become normal, that should not be normal. But here's the thing, the people who are around you, because it's normal, they don't recognize it as wrong. Because it's normal. And so if you go to them and you say, hey, is this wrong? They're going to go, no, it's not wrong. It's how we do things. And they will miss the fact that they are leading you into a different pattern. Now here's the deal. I want to talk about this concept because I know there's a concept that floats around a little bit, and it's this phrase, generational curses. And God, let me just see who I'm talking to here. How many of you heard that phrase? You heard that phrase? Okay, that's like a church phrase, I think. And so some of y'all, yeah. Okay. Now here's the deal. Some people will teach that if there's a sin that your family did, that it gets multiplied into the next generation, and then multiplied into the next generation, multiplied into the next generation. And so you carry this thing. Now, here's what I'm going to say about this. What I'm going to say about this is that for one reason or another, we are absolutely primed to repeat the mistakes that we have observed in our lives. So if your dad was a liar your whole life, there's a chance that becomes a real temptation for you. If you saw unfaithfulness relationally in your family, that more likely than not, that'll be a temptation for you. If you saw violence in your family, quite likely that will be a temptation place for you. But let me explain something to you, that there is no curse and no sin and no bondage that Jesus can't break. And there's no pattern and no sin and no repeat offense that Jesus can't demolish. And so part of the beauty of what Jesus does when he comes and he says, I will set you free from your sin, is that he can break the generational piece. He can break that thing that's been coming down the tracks from your grandfather and your father into you. He could break it. He could break the thing that's coming down from your great-grandma and your great-aunt and then your mom and then now, but he can break it. Do you follow me? That part of what Isaac misses in his life, and it's important to note, is that there's a power that God has to break something, to do something new that you may not expect because you have normalized what is broken. But God is not a God who normalizes broken. He's a healing God. And so, how do we get off the family plan? One, I want to encourage you to make God normal. And that might sound real silly. But here's what I need to explain to you is that God is the one who created us. And he created us with design in mind. He created us with purpose, and he created us with specific things that you and I should do. He created a right way, and we created a wrong way. And in his right way, one of the greatest challenges is that we continually normalize what is wrong. Jesus teaches on this, and he teaches it's like two roads. And there's one road that's a real big challenge to walk. It's overgrown, it's bumpy. How many of you have ever hiked before? And when I say hike, get ready to put your hand down. When I say hike, I mean the path wasn't paved. Okay, all right, y'all real. Okay, so here's the deal. Sometimes I get on like a hiking trail, and there's an entitled piece of me that goes, I'm paying taxes for somebody to clean this, and it is broken, right? Like sometimes I'll hit a trail and I'll be like, these sticks should not be here. These holes should not be here. Who's maintaining this? And it's the entitled me. I'm like, oh. But you know what? There are some roads in life that are really tough. They're challenging. At the end of them, you're sweating, you're sore, you're the whole deal. And then there's some roads. You ever been to an airport? You ever seen those moving walkways? Where I wish I could moonwalk right now. That'd be so impressive. Y'all want to see my fake? So you just like stand there and it moves you, right? Like, it's amazing. You don't have to do anything. It's so easy. If you start walking, you're like a superhero because you're like, right? With all the people by you, it's amazing. Gee, did that freak y'all out? Y'all don't know how fast these legs can go. All right, so y'all were doubting me. You shouldn't. All right. I can still race. I can still beat my 10-year-old in a foot race. All right, so now here's the deal. Jesus describes that there's two kinds of routes. There's one way of living life, and that road is huge because everybody walks on it, and it's smooth and it's easy. and it's air conditioned and it's normal. Because we've normalized broken things. And we've normalized wrong. And we've normalized the things that actually destroy us. Y'all, we took social media and normalized gossip and lust and greed and jealousy and envy. Guys, we took movies and video games and shows, and we normalized murder and violence and lust and all kinds of things. Y'all, we take our music and we normalize abuse and violence, and you fill in the blank, but we normalize all these things. You feel me? And we don't see it because this is the road. And it's a big road, and it's a wide road, and it's an easy road, and everybody's on that road. And Jesus goes, guys, I got a better road. And listen, if you're looking for it to be like what everybody else is walking, you might be disappointed. But I'm going to tell you that that's not the best way anyway. I'm going to tell you that the narrow road, the path less chosen, the one that Jesus invites us on, the one that he made you to walk on, that's actually the only fulfilling one, the only purposeful one, the only one that is by God's design good. And so here's what's absolutely beautiful to me. When Abraham lies about his wife, the Bible says that God shows up and speaks, and he does something, and the king of Gerar realizes in a dream that that Sarah is married. And God restores Abraham. And Abraham messes up again, and God shows up to the Pharaoh. And then Isaac makes the same mistake again. And do you know what's crazy? Is that after this story, God shows up and says, Isaac, I want to remind you that I'm going to take care of you. And he makes sure that Isaac's wife, Rebekah, is never touched, never harmed. She's protected. Do you know what's amazing to me about this is that despite the fact that Abraham and Isaac both made mistakes, both did what was wrong, that God's mercy was big enough to welcome them. And here's the deal. I can only imagine that you are like me. And even though there's things that you knew were wrong, but because they were normal, you did them too. But the beauty is that there's a God who hasn't quit on you yet. Like, the beauty is that there's a God who hasn't given up on you yet, who has mercy big enough and grace big enough. That there's a God who tonight, if we asked him, he could make us right again.